All right. Well, hi everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Cal Sage, and I'm with Prism. Before we jump in today, I want to take a moment to ground us in why we're here. So let me share my screen. Got just a few things to share here. Okay. Someone give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen. All right. So if you're booking shows today, you know how often decisions still come down to incomplete information. It's what you're told, it's what you remember, or what you can piece together across different tools and systems. And when real money is on the line, that creates a lot of risk. That's exactly the problem we're setting out to solve with Insights. The goal is not just more data, it's better decisions. Insights gives you a clear, verified view of how artists actually perform so you can book smarter and more profitable shows. Today is about bringing that to life. You'll hear directly from operators who are using Insights every day. They'll share how they evaluate offers, how it impacts their strategy, and how it's changing the way they approach booking. So this is not just about what Insights is, it's about what better booking decisions actually look like in practice. Okay, and I want to take a moment here to let a few more folks in. All right. So I realize there may be some folks on today who have never seen or heard of Insights before. So before we kick off the discussion with our panelists, I'd like to give an overview of what Insights looks like. Also, if you have any questions throughout the webinar today, feel free to post those in the chat. We've got some Prism team members who will respond to those as soon as possible. So what you're seeing now is Prism Insights. It's a demand prediction platform that equips event organizers with the event data needed to confidently forecast ticket sales. This data is being pulled from settlement PDFs in Prism or from integrated ticketing partners. People have the ability to join Insights with the purchase of the Prism core platform, or they can buy it as a standalone if they have one of our ticketing partners. So this first place we're looking at here is called the Artist Leaderboard. This is pulling in the highest performing artists based on what I have my filter set at over here on the right. So when I click on filters, it's pulling in ways to filter this data by date range, by venue capacity. This is a sliding scale here. Venue city, venue state, and genre. So if I want to know, who are the highest performing artists in my state, highest performing artists based on a genre, on a specific date range, this is where I can control what I pull up in this dashboard. So if I'm a booker in Texas and I want to know who's the highest performing country acts year to date, I can just type that in right there, and then automatically it pulls in this report. And I can go save this report for myself. Texas, country. That way I don't have to set those filters each time I log in. Okay. I can take it a step further and do research on a specific artist if I want to. So in this search bar here, I can type in an artist. And before I click enter, I do want to call out that normally these artists column that wouldn't be blurred there, but because some of you are not current Prism Insights users, we want to protect our customers' data. So we blur out that column. Obviously, once you become a customer, you'll be able to see these artists. So I've typed in my artist here, click enter, and now it brings us to a different dashboard on the specific artist. And it's pulling in 14 previous shows from the Flaming Lips. All these data points here that we're looking at are being pulled from settlement PDFs in Prism or from our ticketing partners with an automatic ingest. What you'll notice is that we keep the venues anonymous. So you'll never see the name of the venues on here. We do capture the venue city and even the ticket scaling on the far right here. When we scroll up, we've added some new features as well around artist sales data. So those 14 shows below, they appear here in this chart, capturing artist sales data over time. Also capturing average ticket price, average tickets sold, and the gross sales. So again, if Austin is my home base, I can type in Austin here and pull in the number of Spotify listeners in Austin, Texas. But maybe I also might want to know Dallas and Houston. So I can pull in all three markets and gather the Spotify listener data for those three markets. It's also pulling in these metrics below around average male age, average female, again, the number of Spotify listeners, and then even some social media figures as well, YouTube subscribers, TikTok, and X. All right. Let me get back to here. Okay, that is an overview of Prism Insights. Without further ado, I want to introduce our panelists for today. We've got John, Vicky, and Johnny. I'm going to let them introduce themselves, let you know their role and who they're with.
Hi, I'm John Metz. I book Exit In and Neighborhood Theater, and I'm based here in Nashville.
Hi, I'm Vicky. I work with Mass Concerts, mainly running point on Headliners Music Hall in Louisville and Revival in Asheville, North Carolina, and I am also based in Nashville.
And I'm Johnny Macco. I'm a talent buyer at the State Theater in State College, PA, based in State College, PA.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for participating today. Let's go ahead and jump in with some thoughtful discussion about how you all use insights today and the impact it's had on your businesses. So let's start with John. Before insights, how are you making your booking decisions?
I was doing probably what most people on the call here do, and I was just scouring the internet, looking at different social media accounts and Spotify listens, and just kind of guessing.
Yeah. What about like calling up friends or peers in the industry about like, the last time they
Oh,
had that third, right?
yeah, definitely. If I know another promoter that has a show that's currently on sale, definitely giving them a call or shooting them an email and just trying to see where their ticket sales were at.
Right. So like scraping the internet, making calls, text, emails. I mean, that could take several, sometimes days, I would think, of waiting for
Absolutely.
you. Yeah. What do you think
That's
you're
one of the
relying on? Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying that's probably my favorite part about Insights is just having everything right as a one sheet right in front of you, all most of the pertinent data that you need all right there. Saves a boatload of time.
Right. So when you say like scraping the internet for data, like what do you think you were relying on the most?
Uh, I wouldn't say anything individually the most. It was just kind of looking at the full scope, right? If there's a whole bunch of Spotify listens and maybe not quite as many Instagram followers or Facebook followers, like that would kind of be a little bit of a red flag to me. But just kind of taking all the data and digesting it together was what I was doing the most.
Right. Vicky, what about you? Like what were you using to make your booking decisions before Insights?
Very similar, definitely checking in with people that had shows with that artist. A lot of digging through different social media platforms just to see engagement, kind of depending on what I was looking at booking. Obviously, if it was a younger artist, focusing more on like Instagram, not as much on Facebook. If it was older, focusing more on Facebook. But it was a lot of time just spent looking through all of the data on different platforms.
Yeah. And like, operating that way where you're just pulling data from a million different places seemingly, like how confident did that make you feel when it came to making these big decisions?
It was pretty confident in certain cases, but I would say those would be the ones where like you could clearly see the social virality happening in real time. Other than that, I feel like it was just very hit or miss. There was no way to put all of it together in front of me and kind of see all of the patterns and what I thought it might do.
Right. Cool. Johnny, what about you? What was your process looking like before you started using Insights?
We used some other resources, Polestar, but a lot of it was just I'm a background as a musician, so I have like friends and different people who work in the business around the country. So a lot of it was just phone calls, word of mouth. How's the show doing? Um, Primarily.
Yeah. I mean, and like, that's great on you, but like, a lot of folks probably weren't musicians in a previous life, so they don't have that network to fall back on. Um, okay, cool. Um, anything else? Is there anything else? Anything anyone else wants to add before we move on to question two? Okay. Vicky, what actually changed for you once you started using Insights?
Yeah, I had the ability to have better forecasting averages for offers. Not as much of a guessing game when you have more of the data in front of you. Also allowed me to have faster turnaround of offers with agents. Sometimes when you ask an agent for parameters, they just say send your best offer. So being able to have actual information that I can reference and really get to a starting point on my offer that might be considered, versus just guessing and either overpaying or sending in an offer that's so low that the agent doesn't even look at it.
Hmm.
Um, it also allows me to target artists that might not have been on my radar, seeing ticket sales where an artist is like performing well on it might not be something I'd even considered, or the opposite of being able to target established artists who in past years might have stagnated. The resurgence of the 90s rock scene, for example, Everclear, you're starting to see those ticket sales just do really, really well and move in a positive direction. So putting bands back on the radar as well with this data that previously had just kind of written off. And all of this is in conjunction with having actual conversations with agents on where offers need to be. But a lot of this just allows me to be in the conversation, whereas before I wasn't, because agents deal with a lot of offers. And if it's not within a certain range, sometimes it's hard just to get the feedback from the agent and they'll just pass instead of saying, hey, can we revise it to XYZ? So even being able to see just the range of ticket prices of past dates, and then I know that like that's kind of the range they want, and I can just work backwards from there.
That's such a good point. And you also said something earlier about like the speed in which you can get offers out. Like as we know, speed is the name of the game, and sometimes the speed at which you can get back to somebody can be the difference between booking your show or missing out on one. Um, what about you, John? Was there a moment where when you started using Insights, things just sort of clicked for you?
Um, I mean, to be honest, once I saw it, I was like, oh, this is a game changer. Because, I mean, let's be honest, Live Nation AG, they have their own version of this. And that gave them a massive leg up, I think, on us independents. And now I feel like this kind of levels the playing field a bit.
Right. What? So you said it like clicked for you when you saw it. What did you see that like stood out the most? Where you're like, okay, yeah, I need this right away.
I mean, just seeing the show finals, how many paid, what the gross was, what the ticket prices were, the markets, and just being, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's definitely not perfect, but it certainly helps. It's not going to give you the answers immediately. You're still going to have to do the work. You're going to have to look at all the finals. Nashville is not going to be the same as LA. You know what I mean? And just because there's finals from all these different markets, it doesn't mean it's going to completely change. It's not going to give you an obvious answer, right? It doesn't show what we paid for the shows, but you can look at the grosses and you can know your expenses and, get to the guarantee much faster than just having
Right.
to guess.
Right. And what about you, Johnny? Was there a moment where things felt immediately different from how you were doing things versus now how you can do things in Insights?
Yeah, I think I would agree that the speed at which we move is a lot faster now. I would also say the quality and the sample size being greater than what I was looking at before, just having a lot more confidence in, sort of seeing, okay, these are even if it's only a few shows, having some kind of data, especially for an up and coming artist, that was more than I was seeing before. So I definitely feel a greater confidence and the speed at which we can move, I think, is the biggest factor in a positive direction.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, people just want their information and their answers now. I mean, I think that's just the time that we live in. It seems like Insights really helps folks do that. Um, okay, cool. Anything else anyone wants to add there before we move on? And again, if you're participating here, you're one of the attendees, if you have a question, feel free to type it in the chat and we can address it as soon as possible. Okay, my next question is for Johnny. So walk us through how you use Insights when a new show comes in.
Usually the first thing I'll do is make sure that my filters are where I want them to be. I mean, it's a matter of personal preference. I usually start where I have my filter on all past shows and only headliners, just to sort of get a big picture view of like what's the average gross, average tickets, and the ticket scaling. And then from there, I usually drill down to more recent data and the markets that I think are similar to ours.
Gotcha. Do you use the saved reports feature?
I have one saved, yes. Yeah,
Okay, cool.
which is
Um,
great.
yeah. I mean, it just saves you, from spending that time just setting up the filters each chance you log in. Um, when when doing that, you got the first couple things that you check with your filters, making sure those are set the way that you want. At that point, like how fast are you then able to get to a decision on an offer?
At this point, and the more I've used it, the faster I've gotten. Honestly, it's probably within 15 minutes, like I'll read the artist bio, watch a bunch of videos, look at these numbers. I really think the ticket scaling piece is important, just to get a sense of, very quickly get a sense of, what the artist has been charging. Do I think we can support that? And then I start doing, like, I'll immediately start building the offer as soon as I look at insights. And then I start, crunching numbers backwards. And then once I have it, I'll talk to our team and can usually try to turn it around within a day, if not, a couple of hours or sooner, depending on how fast, I think we need to move.
Gotcha. And what about you, Vicky? Like, are you using Insights before or after talking to the agent?
It just depends on the situation, and if I'm familiar with the artist or not. There's a lot of acts that I've followed their career trajectory, so I'm a little more familiar with, I would say like Buffalo Traffic Jam is a good example. I mean, that tour sold out pretty much immediately, so you have a really good idea of where that act already is. Um, but if it's something that I'm not as familiar with, or I'm not certain how it will do in my market specifically, definitely drilling down more into insights to familiarize myself. There's also other data aspects that I think I use, like, especially in country support tours, who they've
Mm.
supported, when that was, if they have albums out, kind of all of that sort of stuff, which I can also typically see in insights as well. I know you can filter by headliner, but even seeing like where they supported and being like, if that's a similar market and whoever they supported sold well, it's probably worth targeting to bring back to my market. Um, so it just kind of depends on the artist.
Right. And John, what are some of the filters that you like to use in the leaderboard dashboard?
I'll be honest, it just kind of depends. If I'm just researching an artist, I really don't have any of the like I want to see everything. If I'm researching a specific act, but especially booking exit in a 500 cap room, like one of my favorite features about Insights is doing the research and just literally scrolling through. I try to do it at least once a week, but just scrolling through all the past shows that just went in and just kind of keeping tabs on things. You know what I mean? If all of a sudden an act I've never heard of is selling a lot of tickets in similar venues at, say the West Coast or a different part of the country, that's something I'll keep my eye on. And then, the being introduced to new acts via insights has been really, really a strong tool for me, just in getting more content. Because content, I feel like all the buyers on here would agree, is just, it's getting harder and harder to find quality content. And insights gives you the ability to see where see how many tickets they're selling in different parts of the country. And I don't know, that's been very helpful for me.
Right. That's such a good point too, about how you're utilizing it to track up and coming artists, because like if you miss your window,
Game over.
yeah, it's like 500 cap room, like you've only got that window to go out and book them, or else then they'll be performing in 1,500, 2,000 cap spaces, and you missed it. So
exactly. And then that's another a great feature that you guys just recently added, like adding all the social media accounts there as well. So you can see the Spotify listeners, the ticket sales, and their social media accounts. And then even next to that, you guys have the trajectory, how fast is this act growing, and that's another thing that's been very helpful.
great call out.
And I would say too, I just wanted to agree with the point made about, I think it's really helpful to see who the artists have supported as well. A lot of times I'm at the venue when the band walks in, and if I have um, that knowledge of their history of, maybe it's somebody that they supported that I know, or in a venue that I'm familiar with, then that becomes like an easy conversation starter once the band comes in. So I also like to kind of toggle on and off the headliners only. I think it's important to see, who an artist has supported as well.
Yeah, that's a great point. Okay. Okay, back to John. Can you share a specific example where insights changed a decision you made?
I mean, insights impacts almost every offer I'm sending these days, but a common one, and I'm sure the other talent buyers here have been through it, where you're trying to ask the agent for most recent finals in the market, and they say, oh, it did just under 200 paid, and then you go into Prism Insights, you see, well, it was 140 paid. Like 60 tickets makes a pretty big difference in a 500 cap room, and
Sure.
it's just keeping agents honest. They're doing the best they can to get the most money for their bands and put them in the right situations. But at the same time, we are also a business, and we got to survive. So we can't just be losing money willy-nilly.
Right. What about Vicky? Do you have a specific example where insights changed a decision that you made?
Yeah, I think especially for the acts that you're starting to see via social media have their viral moments, you have to hit the window of that virality. Some of them can't maintain that momentum. So I think seeing recent finals for something that, might have sold out their first headline run because that was, peak of their virality. And then, 6 months later, like they can't sell as many tickets. And so I would have had a higher offer because I would have thought it needed to be more competitive. And then seeing, the second tour, might have sold 50% of the capacity of the venues. And it seems like they're just struggling to sell more tickets. Especially seeing the data points too of ticket prices, like with those specific acts, you have, if they sell out the first tour, the next tour, they're probably like, well, there's more demand. We're going to increase the ticket prices. So that just opens up a door for me to have a conversation with the agent as well about, hey, I'm happy to like kind of meet in the middle on this, but like, can we lower ticket prices? Because I think that's what's needed to get more people in the door here. Obviously, more people in our room means more ancillaries for us if we own the venue. We don't own every venue, so sometimes ancillaries can't really factor into the conversation. But it's a lot easier to have those conversations with agents because I have the data.
That's what it's all about, right? I mean, before a tool like Insights, you're just going in and you're just crossing your fingers, hoping that you'll get a good deal out of it. You just never knew how it was going to shake out. To your point, it's much easier to have those conversations when you've got data to back up your argument. What about you, Johnny? Any specific examples of like, a real life example of how insights changed decision?
I can think of one from a couple of years ago. An agent that I worked with a lot on music had come and pitched more of like a podcast related type show, which I wasn't familiar with. And within, 5 seconds, I could see a bunch of shows reported in Insights, and that sort of gave us the confidence to take a closer look. And ultimately, we did the show, and it was great. So I'm not sure that would have happened without Insights.
Right. That's a good that's a good segue into our next question, which we've already kind of touched on a little bit. But Vicky, I want to ask you this one. So how do you use insights when what you're seeing doesn't match with what you're being told?
Yeah. I will always reference insights no matter what an agent tells me, just to double check the data. Sometimes I know I started out on the agency side as an assistant, and I had to be the one to get the finals and input them in. Each agency asks for different information. So the information that they have to give me, like, might include comps, it might not. Like, there's just so many different reasons why I might not have the full picture. So I'll always double check in insights just to make sure like the numbers are around the same as what they're telling me. And it gives me better insight as to which agents I can trust more in the future, as well as like stuff consistently matches up, especially with newer, hotter acts coming out. I want to be able to like be in the mix on those conversations. So if an agent's approaching me on something I'm not familiar with, but they're saying, hey, this is going to do the business, and historically they've always been honest with me, I'm more likely to give them what they need and take the chance on it. There's been a few times that I've run into a situation where the numbers and insights really don't match what an agent tells me, and where they're so vastly different that, I've had to call the agent and have an actual conversation, just to see why it's so different. In some cases, it's like John said, like, they're being like, oh, it was just under 200 paid, when in reality, they should have said it's probably closer to 150 paid. But it just forces agents to be honest. I know a lot of agents don't really report to Polestar anymore because they don't want the data available, but I think especially at the club level, it's really important for us to have this data and to have the conversations with agents, because touring is very expensive across the board, both on the venue side and the artist side. And I want to make sure the artist is getting paid what they need to be able to go out on the road, but we also have to make sure the venues exist still for them to play. So that's normally where I come at the conversation with agents when stuff doesn't match. It's just, hey, like, I'm totally down to take a bet and, on this artist, and really invest in them, and we can figure out what that number is if you need more on the front end and the back end. But we've got to figure out how everybody can be successful in this show, or put in parameters that are, if this doesn't sell as well as expected, can we have a conversation later down the road about a reduction? Like, just knowing that I'm not going to be hung out to dry if I take that chance. But I know going into it what I should be expecting because I have the real numbers that I can access in insights.
Right. I love what you said. We're like, you're just wanting everyone to win. Like, I think at the end of the day, we're all fans of this industry. We all want to see this industry succeed. This is one of those things that evens the playing field in a bit. And that's, you made a lot of great points in there. What about you, John? Any time, has there been any instances where you've had to push back using insights?
I mean, all the time. I don't know if I necessarily reference that I'm looking at the Prism Insights, but I can say just based on the conversations I've had with other promoters, like it didn't necessarily go this way. Like, where's the disconnect? Uh, that happens a lot, and to
Yeah.
kind of bounce off of what I think Johnny mentioned earlier, like Insights, in my experience, has really helped, especially at the club level, because Polestar is almost, I don't want to say irrelevant, but it's just like the data is, especially if you're booking a 500 cap club, there's just not many 500 cap clubs reporting to Polestar. Whereas you guys know, you guys have 250, 300 cap venues, 500 cap, all those, the development stage, you guys have a lot of those venues. So there's no other resource out there to get that data. And
Mhm.
that's huge.
Yeah. I mean, to your point, like I think we've got everything from a 150 cap listening room all the way up to um, 10 or 12K amphitheaters. I don't think we have any stadiums or arenas just yet, but everything in between.
Yeah,
I think
plenty of festivals. Yeah.
yes, I think there's around 230 participating venues today, around 75,000 events in Prism Insights. So just
That's
some
amazing. Yeah.
stats there. Johnny, what about you? How are some of those conversations going whenever you know that you've got data insights that you can use in your negotiations?
Sometimes I'll reference specific shows every once in a while. I mean, I can't say that it's a weekly thing, but I can think of a few specific examples where what an agent was saying didn't line up with what I was seeing, and it was sort of more egregious. But for the most part, we're in the ballpark. But I would agree. Sometimes you hear somebody say, "Oh, this band did 200 sold," and I look and it's more like 160, and we have a 550 cap room. That difference makes a difference. Um, but usually the conversations are pretty positive. I think a lot of the people that I work with seem to know that we have access to more data now. So for the most part, the conversations are positive, but there have been a few instances where I've had to, push back a bit using that data and insights.
Sure, sure. Okay. Um, okay, Johnny, for someone seeing insights for the first time, what would you tell them?
I would say know that you're seeing the good, the bad, and the ugly as far as the ticket sales go. Like I said, we were using some other resources where it seemed like the data was heavily skewed towards the shows that did really well. The other thing I would say would be just take advantage of the leaderboard. Know that it's also a tool to discover artists. Um, and also to keep in mind, like I had discovered with some of this podcast related um, these shows where it's not just music. I mean, there's comedians in there and other shows too. So I think it's a great resource.
Awesome. Um, John, want to get your thoughts. What should someone who, this is their day one on Insights, right? What should they do first, you think?
Look, search the artist that you're working on an offer for, and welcome to the game, man. Because it's a total game changer. It has completely changed the way that I book shows. Just having that data, and again, keeping agents honest.
And I want to I've got a secondary question to that. Like, now that you're on Insights, you've been on it for a minute. Like, what do you think that's done for the business overall? Like, what's been the impact?
I mean, I think it's good for the ecosystem. Like especially us that book these smaller rooms. Like those are so necessary uh, for artists to keep growing and existing. That if we were just continuing to lose money all the time, they just wouldn't exist anymore. Especially coming out of COVID, like so many venues closed. So I think it's even more important to take care of the little guy because
Mm,
no one else was until Prism came along.
right. It's a great point. Okay. Um, Vicky, what about are there any mistakes that people should try to avoid whenever they get on Insights?
I think don't use it as the end all be all when you're having conversations with agents. Like you can't just take what a show sold at face value. There's obviously outstanding factors like market traffic. I know Red Clay Strays just announced their tour, so I had a couple of markets just mark those nights off on the calendars. They're going to go dark because it doesn't make any sense to go up against something, but you obviously have stuff that pops up after you're announced it on sale that is a similar demographic, maybe as a stadium show, and it's going to affect the smaller show. So there's weather inconsistencies, all things that we've all dealt with probably with our venues, with shows that we've done. So just taking it with a grain of salt, have those conversations with agents, like ask them the question of, why something might not have done as well. Where do they see stuff going, or where do they think it could have ended up? And also just with the data aspect, again, take it with a grain of salt. Data is great and it tells a story, but you can't take it at face value. Especially with a lot of the social media stuff just going viral, but then not having the momentum. You have a lot of these acts that have a ton of social media followers, but those don't translate into ticket sales. Some do, some don't. So it's just really looking at the full picture and using all of these as tools just to have a conversation with agents, because I think it's also improved my relationships with agents because I'm able to have more in-depth conversations and talk to them more consistently about things just because I have access to the data.
Mm-hmm. Johnny, how often would you say you're using Insights?
Oh, every day.
Every day?
Absolutely, yeah. Yep. I have the tab open. I mean, that's like the first thing I open in the morning, really. It's my email and Prism. Yep.
Do you have the app on your phone? Have you been using it on your smartphone yet?
No, I didn't know you guys had one. I've been
Neither
asking.
did I.
Yeah, so
It's pretty cool. I mean, I find myself just, I know one of my favorite bands is on tour and I'm wondering how it's doing. I could just like log in and check.
oh wow.
Uh,
We have a calendar access on the app too.
yeah,
Right, sweet. That's one request I had, so that's good to know.
all good. Um, you know, Basically everything in the what you can do from your laptop, you can do from your smartphone.
All right, cool.
Well, I know there was a couple questions in the chat. One was a direct question to me, so I don't think anyone else saw it, but it says from R. Farrell, it's nice to hear we've all had or are having the same struggles. Has anyone on the panel used Polestar or Chartmetric? And how would you say they compare?
Definitely. So Insights kind of combines both of those. Like you get the show finals and you get the listener data that is super crucial. Obviously, like are people in your market, do they even know who this band is? And I think it's huge. Like frankly, you probably don't need Vibrate or Chartmetric if you're using Insights because it just takes care of all that for you.
Yeah, and I think with Polestar, the last number I heard was, to pull a tour history report, it's like 15 or $20.
Mhm.
With Prism Insights, you have unlimited usage. You're not going to get nickel and dimed every time you want to research an artist.
Yep.
I will say
Um,
Chartmetric sometimes has additional data, so it is dependent on your use case, but what I've seen you guys continue to add and grow with Prism, I can only foresee that you guys are going to just make our use of Chartmetric redundant, because you've really been great at seeing the needs that are there and just building the platform for it.
yeah, I mean, we've definitely heard instances of people basically within a week of being on Insights saying like, okay, I think I'm going to cancel my Polestar subscription. I don't need it. I can save $1,200, $1,500 a year now. I just don't need both. Okay, and Glenn asks, is the source of the demographic data coming from social media? So we are pulling the demographic and social media data from a third-party API, ticketsell.ai. The Spotify data comes directly from Spotify. And then Max Beck asked, is Spotify data inferred for markets that are smaller than the artist's top 50? So yeah, you'll definitely see we're missing data for smaller markets outside of that top 50. So the best thing to do is to search like the closest major market to your venue to get the most accurate data there.
And I would say that's not a fault of Prism, that's a fault of Spotify API because the data is just not available, correct?
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. Someone from the Prism team can double check me on this, but I think we've requested about pushing it out to more than just the top 50 markets. I'm not sure where we've landed on that yet, but I'm in Charleston, and I don't think Charleston comes up on those searches. Someone asked about where to find the app. So it's an app within the Prism software. Check out www.prism.fm about Core Prism or Insights for more information. more questions about where to get the app. Yeah, you guys should all have it. I mean, just because we all know that this job is not an 8 to 5, we're not always in front of our laptop. So being able to check a date on the calendar or pull a report or send an offer, you can do that from a smartphone if you have the Prism app on your phone. Great questions. That's all for me. Is there anything else that anyone would like to touch on? Any other questions from the attendees here or from the panelists? Anything that you want to add at this point?
Nothing on my end. I got to touch on the points that I wanted to. I just want to harp back on how crucial Prism is, or Insights is, just for discovery. Like, just finding new acts to go after. If you're struggling for content, like, this is a really great resource for that. It really is. And I know we all could use more shows.
Yeah, I mean, great point. And, the more people are on it, the better, right? So, we're constantly wanting to spread the word here. And, we just want a world in which everyone can go win. Benji had the latest comment here around our integrated ticketing partners, eTix, TicketWeb, Tix or Dice, Eventim or C-Tickets, Pre-Kindle, and Eventbrite. That allows you, if you're using one of those ticketing platforms, you can use Insights as a standalone right away. Otherwise, you can use it through our core platform, which I believe John, Vicky, and Johnny, you're all using core as well.
Yes.
Yep. Okay.
I'd just like to say the ticketing integration on the core platform, automatically going in for settlements, is so nice. So I don't have to manually do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you really don't have to lift a finger. I mean, especially once that gets set up, it's automatically pulling in the most up-to-date ticket counts, and those flow directly into settlement, which we all know we've all been a part of some gnarly settlements before. So anything we can do to simplify that, the better. Okay, Johnny, anything from you? Otherwise, we'll wrap a little early.
Yeah, I would just say honestly, if anybody's on the fence about using Prism in general, I would say give it a shot. Everyone that I've worked with at Prism has been top notch, and it's been a game changer for everyone within our organization. So highly recommended.
Thank you, Johnny.
You're welcome.
And thank you, John and Vicky, as well, for your participation today. Thank you so much for being part of the Prism family. Thank you all for attending as well. If you have any questions or you're interested about learning more about the core platform or Insights, there's a few of us on the sales team here, myself, Chris, or Tony. You can reach out to any of us, and we'll set up some time to chat with you and explore a partnership together. Otherwise, hope you enjoyed it. And this is being recorded, so it should go out to everybody. But yeah, thanks for attending, everybody. Have a great day.